George W. Bush was the 43rd President of the United States and won the 2000 election against Al Gore and 2004 election against John Kerry. But what many people don't know is that while he was in office, President Bush would defend the White House in 2007 from a joint Taliban-Russian attack. You see, Russia and the Taliban came to an agreement in 2007 and decided to work together for reasons that remain a mystery to this day. Their plan was simple: attack the White House at night while President Bush was still in the Oval Office. They had only one objective, and that was to kill the 43rd president. However, that mission wouldn't be so easy for them, as the president had been training with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator himself, who had experienced hunting alien predators, and Bush was more than prepared for any assault. Once the White House was breached, Dubya pressed a button under his desk, not a panic button to get help from the Secret Service or military, but one which revealed the M4 in his desk fully loaded with 30 rounds of 5.56 with a maximum effective range of 3,600 meters. When the Oval Office was attacked, Bush used his desk for cover and started dropping bullets and stacking bad guy bodies. Every time a Taliban member or Russian came into his view, he would be one-shotted by the president. However, Colin Powell was captured by bad guys, and Bush made his way out of his office as he reloaded his M4 and went into a hallway. Once there, a grenade went off as the Taliban and Russians made a second attempt on the president. Bush took cover again and returned fire as a Secret Service guy ran away. After killing 25 more Russians and terrorists, Bush freed Powell and continued moving through the White House battleground. Suddenly, the enemy attacked Bush again as he was trying to leave the White House, where Condoleezza Rice, who was armed with dual mini Uzis, arrived to aid Bush as they were caught in an ambush. Bush and Rice were able to defeat another group of Taliban and Russian attackers as the W continued relatively unscathed on his journey. The president would be hit in his arm and tied a bandage around it as he reloaded his M4 to make his way out. As George W. Bush started walking downstairs to the main entrance, he heard footsteps and stopped on the staircase. The door blew open as the Russians and Taliban began running in through the exploded doorway and busting through windows. Bush, having no cover, turned his weapon from semi to full auto and completely just mag-dumped all over the attackers, killing them all. As Bush came in view of the garden, more Russians and Taliban came charging towards the president, where Bush took cover behind one of the pillars and emptied his magazine as the garden battle began at the fountain. Bush reloaded his M4 once again, and with precision accuracy, killed all 30 hostiles with one single mag and reloaded once again. After the president cleared the White House garden of attackers, the Russians then sent in 3 attack helicopters in an attempt to kill Bush again. However, Bush was now armed with a rocket launcher and blasted the first helicopter right as it came in range. The second helicopter was barely able to even open fire before being destroyed by Dubya. And the last helicopter would dodge the first rocket fired by Bush and unloaded 100 rounds before being taken out by Bush's next rocket. With all the Russians dead, the Taliban decided to launch a final attack in the form of a van with all the rest of the Taliban attackers inside. But this wasn't just an ordinary van, it was a vehicle-borne IED and rammed through the White House gates at full speed as the driver began to floor it. Bush then fired a rocket which blasted just in front of the van, and the driver swerved but kept going as Bush reloaded and then delivered a killing blow just before the van detonated in the White House garden. The Taliban and Russians had clearly misunderestimated the 43rd president, and following this unprecedented attack on the White House, the area was cleaned up to look like the events of that night never happened, so nobody would know how easy it was for bad guys to attack the White House. And W just went to work the next day, like it never even happened. And Russia and the Taliban then severed their relationship. And that's the story of how George W. Bush defended the White House in a shootout with terrorists and Russians in 2007. Did you know about this shootout before the video? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.